Have you ever been halfway through explaining, let's just throw out there, maybe the third conditional, and the whiteboard is just full of notes and timelines, and there's arrows, and you've got all the different color coding, and suddenly you realize that your client or your student, the learner, just wanted to say, sorry, I missed the meeting. Yeah, I've been there. And here's the kicker. They don't always need a grammar lecture. Sometimes students just need a communication fix. Hey there, it's Kelly, and if you're here for miracle fixes, shiny classroom hacks, or whatever today's buzzword is trending, yeah, not gonna happen. What you will get is real talk about English teaching, teacher training, and the chaos we actually deal with in ELT. So let's get into it. Hey there, teacher. Listen, I'm gonna give you a very quick reality check. I don't know if you want it or not, but this is a very common trap. And when a client or student asks, can I use had been working here in this sentence, like had been working, can I use that? They rarely are asking for a deep dive into the present perfect continuous forms. Rarely. What they mean is, how do I say this without sounding weird, robotic, or like I learned English from a textbook in 1994? But so many of us, especially early in our careers, I am guilty of this too. So I am here to share the guilt. Don't worry. We go full professor lecture mode. Verb charts, timelines, passive voice trauma, and the poor student is sitting there wondering why they just paid for a syntax seminar and they came out when they just came in and said, like, I have an email problem. Can you help me with it? Listen, I've done it. I've gone down the rabbit hole explaining the modal verbs or like whatever the real question was. I just completely detoured off of it, right? So when I finally caught myself doing it, I realized that I wasn't teaching them to communicate. I was teaching them to know grammar, which is not really the same thing. So grammar is a tool. It's not the goal. Unless you are teaching future teachers. That's all I'm going to say. So if you're teaching future teachers, this episode is probably not for you. But if you're just teaching language users, here's the mental reframe that really changed kind of my entire approach. And I got my notes here. We're going to go through it. 1, grammar is not the goal. It's a tool. The job isn't to create perfect grammarians. These are not, I remind teachers all the time, and I have to remind myself sometimes too, because I just get excited about it if I'm explaining something. These are going to be language users, not language teachers. It's to build professionals, adults, teenagers, whoever that can navigate tricky conversations without losing confidence. That's it. And grammar, very necessary, very important because it supports that goal, but it's not the other way around. Like we can't put grammar first, and that grammar is comfortable. Why? Because for language teachers, grammar is concrete and we love it because there's rules and we can explain it and it's concrete and that's great. But for students, I'm going to go with 95% of them do not want to be grammarians and they don't want to be language teachers, so they don't really need the lecture. So I flipped my process. Instead of teaching grammar as an isolated concept, which I think a lot of us do in the beginning years. Listen, I have very cringy stories of my beginning years, especially because I was like completely untrained and just going through. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. It's fine. Instead of having the isolated concept, I anchored it in actual communication moments. And this is not me recreating the wheel. I'm just saying we have to always just kind of anchor things into context and communication moments. So we would rewrite their awkward emails together. We would kind of role play or go through a mock follow-up call. We looked at tone and power dynamics and cultural nuance, and the grammar shows up naturally. But it only was highlighted when it helped them sound more respectful, assertive, collaborative. It was only highlighted when necessary, because grammar just shows up. If you're using a language, grammar is always there. So what I see in the world, the next segment that I got here, is there's two types of learners. So I've been with learners and students who couldn't even tell you what a modal verb was, but they could use it very confidently and in very complex discussions with senior stakeholders, for example. And I've had others who could diagram an entire sentence in their sleep, like really, really good at grammar. But as soon as they had to say something in a meeting, they froze. So guess which group of learners gets promoted faster in work situations, for example? It's not necessarily about perfect form and being able to memorize rules, and it's all about functional clarity. Students need to be able to use these things. So I'm going to talk about business English because business English is context heavy. Business English just lives in super dense context. And why that's important is because it's where what you mean is as important as how you say it. And this is why filling in the blanks and drilling isolated forms, it doesn't prepare business English students. And I don't think general English students, but I tend to live in the world of business English. So it doesn't prepare them for the chaos of real-time communication at all, right? So they have to balance these two things. Listen, grammar is important, but they don't need to identify structures. They don't need to create things. They need to know how to use it. And so instead, we need to give them the skills to be able to read the room, adjust the tone, choose structures that achieve their goal in that specific moment. So they don't need to identify the structures. They need to know how this is going to convey my message. And is this language that I'm thinking of and that I'm creating in the moment, is that concise enough to mentally give my audience the image, the mental construction that I'm trying to give them? If not, we're doing them a disservice. So how to shift your lessons, because listen, I was there. I had this issue. Here's what it looks like in practice. You're going to swap the fill in the blanks. Get rid of them. And what you're going to do is take their last really awkward Slack message or email or something that they were trying to respond to, and you're going to rewrite that. We're not going to do fill in the blank. Now we're going to do this. You're going to replace those gap fill activities, because I'm sure you probably have a million of them and they're just doing it over and over again. Instead of doing that, why don't they draft a LinkedIn comment that they would actually post? Like by the end of the class, all they're going to do is hit send, comment. Why not? And then take the grammar point that they're curious about and show them how it changes the tone in an email to a peer versus a manager. So make all of this stuff relatable and context heavy. One of the things that, especially training new teachers in CELTAs and mentoring and courses alike to that, is that they always forget context. They're so worried about procedures and lesson plans and activities. They forget the context, and the context is the most important thing for the students. So when someone asks me a grammar question, my first response is no longer the rule. It's, what are you trying to say? What's the objective here? What image are you trying to get into my brain? And that question immediately reframes the task. Instead of obsessing over these kind of technical accuracy of would and could and long explanations, which really kind of go in and out of students, sometimes they hear it and it's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, great. Sometimes they absorb a little bit of it, but honestly, it's not for them. We talk about persuasion and politeness and urgency. And that's where the light bulbs go off, because then they see it in a context, as opposed for me just verbatim reading something from Martin Parrott or Michael Swan's grammar books to them. That's just not helpful. They're not, because hey, they need to know, what does this mean and how's it going to be interpreted, as opposed to, let me tell you all the nuances and grammar details and exceptions to the rules. So yeah. Anyways, I mean, I did this. So I feel for people that get stuck in this, because it is comfortable. Like, grammar is comfortable. There's rules. We can just, hang out in those books. But when learners see grammar as a way to sound more collaborative or persuasive or precise, it sticks. And they stop memorizing rules and labels, because they don't need those, for the little test, like, what's this structure called? Does it matter? Nope. And they start using the language, because they are language users, using the language that works for their real world goals. So this usually builds competence, confidence, and it's what's helping move people forward, whether it be in their careers or whatever they're usually using English for. So, and for us teachers, it's a little bit liberating, scary at first, but liberating, because I don't have to explain what an auxiliary verb is for the 400th time. Like, nope. I just, like, their eyes start to glaze over. And I got that very dead-eyed look. Well, you just break out another timeline and say, okay, timelines are helpful. Don't get rid of your timelines. But what I'm saying is, you get a person who you get to be the person who solves their real communication problem in real time. And that's actually what keeps students coming back, is they have a solution to a problem they're having, and for them, that's progress. So the next time you catch yourself in full grammar lecture mode, stop. You can explain grammar, but if it's like 20 minutes, if you're hitting the 15-minute mark, like even 10 minutes is like, oh, it's like a little cringy for me. It should be less than that. But hey, that's just me. That's just me. Just ask your students, what are they trying to achieve? Look at the sentence in the context, fix the communication first, and then layer just enough grammar on top of it for it to be clear and natural, but just enough. It's like salt. You don't want too much of it. So if you do need help turning your grammar-heavy materials into lessons that actually build communication skills, then we can talk. You can certainly send me a message. All of my contact information is always located in the description of my videos. And bonus points if you bring me some absurd grammar explanation that you've ever had to give, because I've got some stories of my own, and I love hearing all of those good things. So get in touch if you need to, but try to flip the script. We're not creating future grammarians. We are creating very confident and hopefully successful language users.
That's it for today. If you want more, I've got binge-worthy playlists right here on the channel. You can also grab some resources at kellypenningtonelt.com, Instagram at kellypenningtonelt, and yes, even LinkedIn, where I do my best impression of being professional. Links below. See you in the next one.